Hey everybody, I'm John Granado, and that's Lance Zerline. Hit subscribe so you get all of our Texans content right here at Sports Map Texans. We really like talking Texans football here, so make sure that you get all of it here. I'm John Granado, that's Lance Zerline. Lance, Stephen A. is catching it a little bit this week from Texans fans. Last offseason, he said that African-American coaches need to stay away from the Houston Texans because of the firings of David Culley and Lovie Smith. I think this is ridiculous if you want to know the truth. What team has hired a general manager that's black and 3 black head coaches that the Texans would somehow be considered racially insensitive or racist in any way, shape, or form? I think it's stupid, and I think Stephen A. owes D'Amico an apology.
Well, I think his point was that both of those coaches got 1 year. And that was extremely rare.
And what did they do then? They hired another black head coach.
Right. I think his point was. I'm not agreeing with him. I think his point was that those guys only got 1 year. They didn't get a fair shake. They weren't the right guys.
Yeah.
They were never the right guys. To this day, I don't know what the Culley thing was, and I know the D'Amico was because they couldn't get in, McCown. So they ended up with not D'Amico, but Lovie Smith. They couldn't get Josh McCown, so they ended up going second choice, who was on the staff with Lovie Smith. Those guys weren't the right guys. This is the right guy. And so this is just an example of how you have to be careful about, deciding that some place is a terrible place or this, that, and the other. It was a great place for D'Amico. He knew the McNairs. He had a background, at least with Cal, some background, knew the city, played in the organization. And, yeah, Stephen A. Smith was wrong because the only thing that C.J. Stroud and D'Amico Ryans talk about is how great it is, to be in Houston and to work with the McNairs.
Well, and listen, the racing just has to go away from the Texans, okay? Because
right.
Bob McNair thing I thought was ridiculous. And if there was any racial component to the firings of Culley and Lovie Smith, it wasn't. It was about performance and it was about acceptability. Listen, the Texans, it wasn't about that. It wasn't about race. It was about incompetence. The Texans organization was incompetent until this year. They have taken a huge step into credibility now. I think they're a heck of a lot more credible organization than they were last year.
Yeah. How was credibility always there? Like, did it just not show itself? Like, how do you go from not credible to credible? Well, you hire the right coach. Well, winning helps. You look credible when you win, but they definitely hired the right coach. Nick Caserio's moves this year have been good, and I think that without people in the building who are maybe in it just for themselves that they had before and were running over the owner and Cal McNair, I think now Cal McNair and certainly I'll continue to mention Hannah McNair, I think that they are made for a team that's got good people in place. I think they're going to be good. I think they'll do whatever it takes to win as an ownership group. I think Cal McNair will do whatever it takes to win, and I think he listened to the previous guys. They just happened to be in it for themselves, and they were incompetent. This group right now is not incompetent that they have in place.
No, and listen, the Bill O'Brien and Jack Easterby, the incompetence that they showed, lost a fan base. The fan base is returning, but it's not there yet.
You surprised that it's not like we talk about Houston being kind of you win and we're in, but it's a little bit strange to me.
Well, we're so close to it, though. They lost me. I was a season ticket holder for 20 years, and I said I'm done. I can't do it anymore. I've gone to a few games now, but I know a lot of people that still haven't gone back, and it's going to take a little while for them to go back, and maybe it's going to take more than just making the playoffs this year. It's still going to be a couple of years. The crowds at the Broncos game, the crowds at the Browns game, the crowds at the Chiefs games. It was horrible. It was the atmosphere was horrible and was mostly a visitors' crowd. Do you think this playoff game is going to change things for the fan base?
I think it does, and I think if they win, I think being in the playoffs, more people look. You saw them on primetime this last week. For a lot of Houstonians, that was their first time really locking in with the Texans probably. I think in the postseason, everyone locks in on the playoffs. You have people who say, yeah, I'm going to watch the Texans. They got a chance to win. They'll go buy a Texans shirt from Dick's or Academy or I guess Academy or the Texans store, wherever, and they'll become little, T-shirt fans for at least a week. We'll see how it goes. I think if the Texans win and extend the playoff run to another week, I think we're talking about a monster movement next year with an influx of fans again, with fans coming back buying season tickets. Even if they lose, I think it's still a real positive that they made it this far. But to me, a win is really important for them because I think that helps bring people back much, much more quickly than obviously a loss will. Making the playoffs is good, but winning at least one game is really important.
It'll be interesting to see. They had a waiting list for tickets. That's gone. It's been gone for a few years now. It'll be interesting to see if we get back to where all those season tickets are gone, and if in fact we get another waiting list. That'll be a big indicator of whether or not how many season tickets we see sold this offseason is going to be a big indicator.